September 2nd, 1945. What if the collapse of an empire wasn't just about bombs and battles, but a slow, suffocating grind of fire, fear, and impossible missions, where even medics walked straight into hell, knowing they might never walk out? And here's the part nobody tells you. The destruction of Japan's economy during World War II wasn't caused by one moment, one weapon, or one country alone, but by a relentless chain of events, driven largely by the industrial might and strategic warfare of the United States, where factory lines back home turned into a storm of steel overseas, and where missions grew so brutal that survival itself became a miracle picture this early 1945. The skies over Tokyo glowing red as B-29 bombers unleashed firebombing raids that didn't just target military bases, but burned entire industrial districts to the ground, crippling production and leaving civilians trapped in what survivors later described as a living nightmare. Streets melting, rivers boiling, with boaties trying to escape flames. And in the middle of that chaos were medics, young guys barely out of training, running through smoke so thick they couldn't see their own hands, dragging wounded soldiers and civilians alike, sometimes hearing voices calling for help from buildings that were already collapsing, knowing if they stepped in, they might never come back out. And yet, they went anyway, because that's what duty demanded. Now zoom out a bit, because the economic destruction wasn't just fire from the sky, it was a chokehold. American submarines cutting off Japan's supply lines across the Pacific, sinking cargo ships one after another until fuel, food, and raw materials became dangerously scarce. And by mid-1945, Japan's economy was essentially gasping for air. Factories sitting idle, not because they lacked workers, but because there was nothing left to process. No steel, no oil, nothing. And then comes the human side of it, the part that sticks with you. Like the story from the Battle of Okinawa, starting April 1st, 1945, where medics faced one of the bloodiest confrontations in the Pacific. A place where rain turned the battlefield into mud mixed with blood, where caves hid not just soldiers but terrified civilians, and where some medics reported hearing whispers in the dark tunnels, only to find entire families dead when they reached the source. The air thick with decay, a kind of horror that didn't leave you even when the war did. And still, through all that, acts of insane courage kept happening, like medics shielding wounded men with their own bodies during artillery barrages, for crawling across open ground under machine gun fire just to stop someone from bleeding out, turning what should have been certain death into stories of survival that feel almost unreal. But let's be real for a second. The final blows to Japan's economy came with a shock that changed history forever. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima on August 6, 1945, and Nagasaki on August 9, 1945. Events that didn't just destroy cities, but wiped out infrastructure, workforce, and morale in seconds, leaving behind shadows burned into walls, and a silence that survivors described as more terrifying than the explosion itself, because it meant everything they knew was gone. And yet, even in those final days, medics kept working in conditions that defy belief, treating burns they had never seen before, dealing with radiation sickness they didn't understand, watching patients fade away despite doing everything right, and still refusing to stop because quitting wasn't an option. Now, here's where it hits different. The destruction of Japan's economy wasn't just about military victory, it was about endurance, pushed to its absolute limit, about a nation stretched so thin that collapse became inevitable, and about individuals as medics under fire who faced horrors that most people couldn't even imagine, let alone survive, and somehow kept going, turning fear into action and chaos into courage. So when you think about who destroyed the Japanese economy in World War II, the real answer isn't a single name. It's a combination of strategic bombing, naval blockades, and relentless pressure applied over years, driven by the United States and its allies, but carried out on the ground by people who bled, burned, and broke in ways history books rarely show. And maybe the real question you should be asking isn't just who destroyed it, but how far can a human being go when the world around them turns? into something out of a nightmare? And would you have had the courage to step into that fire, knowing what was waiting on the other side?